Okay, we're live. Hi, everybody. It's Bob Weathers here with your Vitality Project with our special guest tonight, Angela MacLeod.
Hi, Bob.
Nice to see you, Angela. Thanks for joining us tonight. We join together most every Friday night. Tonight's Friday night topic is a heavy one. We started it on Wednesday, Angela, with 𝗪𝗵𝘁. He joined me. The topic for the last a few weeks has been looking at how we can manage difficult emotions, and I'm basing much of the material on the work that 𝗪𝗵𝘁 and Stan Block have done in their book, a Mind-Body Workbook for Addiction. And one of the emotions they discuss, which doesn't get talked about very much in psychology, but certainly is one that's familiar to any of us that live inside our skin, is this feeling of dread, which is a bit like anxiety or fear, but possibly harder to nail down, and oftentimes kind of under the surface, less overt. So I'd like to talk into that some with you tonight, but specifically, especially with your background and your investment in helping us to navigate through difficult emotions with emotional self-regulation of our nervous systems. I'd love to hear any reflections and insights that you have to offer. So I'm glad that you're here. Really glad that you're here, Angela.
Thank you.
As always. Yeah. Maybe to start with is just to invite you, any reflections that you may have just on this phenomenon of dread. I know that we introduced it on Wednesday night, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. And then perhaps we can spend a few minutes talking about ways of coping with or moving through dread.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about it with you. I did listen to you and Doug talk about dread.
Thank you.
And I actually listened to it when I was getting ready to go to sleep, and I ended up falling asleep, partly because it's kind of ironic because it's such a heavy topic, but I like you and Doug so much. I think it was just
thank you.
Fun to listen to you both.
Very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah. It is a heavy one, isn't it? I thought it was interesting timing because in the last couple of weeks, I've gotten some situations have happened in my home life, my personal life, where I actually said, and this is even before you posted about dread, I actually heard myself saying, I dread this. I dread this, what's coming. And so I have a pretty raw, pretty near experience of how that was for me. And I've also pondered quite a bit too, like what's the difference between dread and fear and anxiety? Like you kind of mentioned those, and I don't want to get too much into picking apart definitions, partly for time's sake, but also just to really to get to more, to me, what seems more interesting is, what to do with it, how to live with it, or how to live and learn or something, what it's about. And so one of the things I noticed in this recent situation was how much of a physical experience it was initially. There was like a bodily contraction, kind of like a feeling of closing down in my body, my gut, my solar plexus, wanted to just close up. And then I was quickly going into my mind, like thinking and projecting in the future and maybe even catastrophizing. So like, oh my God, if this happens, then this and this will happen, and then that's going to be horrible. And so that kind of thing mounted up for me. And just to say really quickly, what did I do with that? With my skills and resources and my self-awareness, I recognized pretty quickly that I wasn't going to be thinking very clearly.
Yes.
With that initial hit.
Yeah.
And so I pretty much immediately looked at my calendar and said, I'm going to set aside a few things and make some time for myself. And then also my previous reflex would be to shut down, including isolating.
Okay.
Because for me in this situation, there was a little bit of embarrassment mixed in, like the situation was embarrassing to me. And so when I have embarrassment or shame, then my reflex is I don't want people to see what's happening.
Yeah.
So it's pretty complex.
Yes. Yeah.
But I know enough to know I have some people in my life and some groups that I can talk about what's really going on. And so, so that's another thing that I just gently, I really emphasize gentleness. For me is that feeling of dread, for me, connected in with some feelings of vulnerability, you know, and even like a feeling of being trapped.
Yeah.
Maybe in different situations, dread might show up differently, but for me, there was some other components like feeling trapped and feeling like I have no choice. Like partly why I dread this potential problem is that I feel like I can't handle it. You know, there's no way out.
Yeah.
And so I dread it. I'm not equipped or capable.
Yeah.
So I think taking time to just help my nervous system calm, get connected with some trusted people and groups, actually literally doing movement work and breathing work, you know, to help my body calm down. And this wasn't like a 1 hour thing. This was like over a period of a week or two. You know, it was sort of in waves that I was feeling this dread come up.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like when I was able to kind of calm down, then it seemed important for me to look at what is real and what am I concerned might happen. Because I think dread for me, from my experience, is often connected with projecting into the future something bad is going to happen that I can't tolerate. And so that may be true. There may be something bad, you know, or something, you know, injurious to me. And but then there also may be that I'm projecting into the future something that may not happen.
Yeah.
So that's a sort of brush over the. There's more details that I could go into, but that was fresh.
Maybe I can respond to you just briefly and invite you to share more details. I'm so impressed as always, and so appreciative, Angela, for the detail with which you dropped down into this feeling, and several thoughts arose as I was listening to you. First of all, the strongest feeling, just real appreciation, respect. I mean, really bowing to your integrity. It's really beautiful. Always. I think the move so oftentimes with feelings that are unpleasant, and dread is one of those that's as unpleasant as any. The move is generally, the reflex is to move away from it, and it takes so much courage. And that's why I think my eyes tear up when I just respond to you. Is like your capacity and commitment to move into it, which is so counterintuitive, leads to such differentiation. It's like you take dread. I was just listening to you and just like all of these nuances, and you said it well. This is for you. It might form in a different, well, inevitably would form in a different way for me or for the next person. But you're modeling for us a way of dropping down into it, and it's that's, I think, such a critical intervention of itself, is to move from just being overwhelmed to beginning to get some fine-tuned understanding of what's going on. And it is counterintuitive because I even felt self-conscious about picking this title for tonight. It's like, let's talk about dread. But it's like, if we don't talk about it, it doesn't make it go away. It just keeps it nameless and like a big amorphous blob that can consume us. And so I just want to really reinforce what you're modeling, Angela, which is facing and moving towards the dragon, so to speak, to be able to understand it is such I think just as a beginning understanding, that if that's all we did was understand it, you and I both know this from our respective backgrounds, is that moving material that is locked into the emotional center of our brain and beginning to connect it to the verbal and the descriptive and the analytic part. It's not about dissociating from it. It's just about trying to understand it. Is that can be such a huge a leg up on the dread. I don't think it's going to make it go away, but it begins to give us clues of what we're experiencing. I think it can help me in my own experience around things I dread. I know this is the case. There are a number of things that are habitual dreads for me,
Mhm.
We were in a meeting the other day and we were talking about it together. Every year around taxes for the last 50 years, because I started doing taxes when I was 15. I don't like them. I don't like them, and they bring up a dread. I mean, it's honestly a dread, and it's I don't know what percentage of people experience the level of dread I do, but I do, and I can go down into that, and I can find themes that tie into childhood difficulties, challenges for me, real life difficulties, and also I liked how you put it, is that our emotional center will take that and amplify it. You talk about in terms of catastrophizing it. Doing taxes is never as loathsome as I imagine it. And I've been audited twice in 50 years, and that was unpleasant, but it wasn't the end of the world either. It's like, I don't like dealing with the IRS. Okay, but I don't have to turn it into World War III. And sometimes my mind does that. So I really appreciated how you talked about looking at the kind of is this realistic, and just kind of analyzing things to understand how much of this is my emotional reactive, my limbic system just running amok. And so I feel like all of those are really important clues for what we might do, naming and putting the brakes on and so on. And towards the end there, you talked about some specific embodied ways that you have of kind of shaking and moving, literally. I'd like to hear more about that, just because that's less of the emphasis. Most of my training as a psychotherapist, in my training in psychology, was on words, and words are valuable, but you're bringing in a really important component, and you're kind of uniquely positioned, at least in our conversation, because you have a huge background of movement and dance and qigong and nervous system regulation, and the way you bring those together, I think, is an incredibly important adjunct or resource to all of this. So I'd love to hear if you're willing to say a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. Favorite topic of mine. Well, as I said earlier, recognizing that impact, I'll just go back to my recent story, that this was really hitting me hard. This was really shaking me up, and on a nervous system level and a body level, I literally felt myself collapsing down. Like my stomach got tight. I couldn't eat. Really, I couldn't eat, and so that was a signal to me that this would be a good time to actually do a little bit more with my body, with my breathing, my breathing work. And so I actually did need to set aside some time, and I have the ability to do that. I could say I'm going to cancel a couple things to make more time. And what I did in that time initially was I did movement, basically. I did walking. I didn't do movement in a way to escape the experience. I did movement as a way of turning toward it. So some of the time when I was feeling that gut-wrenching feeling and the tightening in my solar plexus, I just laid on the floor and I went into that feeling, that sensation, and I just said, wow, what do you need? What can I do for you? And then, then I would breathe into it, so this gentleness, almost like if I were treating a small child that was really terrified, how would I treat that child? This isn't the time to say, buck up, get out there. At least in my opinion, that's not what works in this situation. So there's that element of it. I also want to mention that I have a regular daily practice that it combines mindfulness and movement and qigong and breathing work and introspection. So it combines a bunch of things that really, if I didn't have that practice already in motion and already happening on a daily basis, I'm not sure what I would have done. And I'm not sure if it would have occurred to me, to take more time to be in my body, to breathe and those kind of things. So I feel that just backing up a bit about the nervous system, the experience of dread, the raw experience of dread for me elicited kind of a combination of freezing, like deer in the headlights, but also a feeling of collapsing.
Yeah.
So there are these different branches of the nervous system.
Mm,
And red alert brain is a term you've
mm,
brought to the Vitality Project, which would include both a freeze shutdown mode, but
yeah.
also a fight or flight mode. It's like survival. This is something horrible is happening. I'm going to
Yeah.
go away. I'm going to disappear, or I'm going to get out of here, or I'm going to fight. And so I was more in the mode of, I feel like my body wants to disappear, and I want to move. I felt like I need to move.
Yeah.
I literally out of this home situation. So I recognized that that was my nervous system telling me, and my mind then was interpreting, I need to move, I need to get out of here. But when I allowed myself to slow down some more, I could realize maybe I need to take more time with this. Maybe that's not the next step.
Yeah.
And so when I've been able to shift the nervous system then to that more resting brain, as you put it, it's a branch of the nervous system that's called rest, digest, connect. So it's where we feel grounded, where we feel like we can reach out for help,
Yeah.
where we can think more clearly. And so for me, that became, that was like, let's see if we can shift the nervous system. Now let's reach out to some friends, to my groups, etc. Take time, breathe into it. So, and this would also be a place where I would relapse in the past.
Yes. Yes.
So that's a way that it could go if I faced extreme dread or any number of things with no resources, no understanding of what's happening. I'm out of here. I'm just going to drink. I can't handle this.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, the value of putting time and work into learning about how to deal with your own nervous system, creating these resources. And they, the thing is, it just really strikes me, is that when we're in a terrible situation, a terrible moment of dread, if you don't have those resources, it's much harder to think of them or to get to them, and so the value of doing a regular practice when you're doing okay. You think, I'm okay, I don't need to do this practice. Well, no, that's when you really need to be doing it. So I'm reaping the benefits of my own understanding of that, and hope that this resonates with other people, because I would love for more people to be able to get this kind of grounding in their own bodies and their relationships.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Angela. I want to say a word, and then we'll wind down in a moment.
Okay.
But I feel like that both you and I are really committed to this. It's the work that you do as helping clients to develop skills. I put a link here to Qigong just for people to read more about it, and that you're an expert in helping to apply what you're saying right now, and that you're committed to it personally, so that it's not just out of a textbook, it's your life. And I feel similarly. As I was listening to, I was thinking, I've seen clients all day today, all of whom are in recovery, and many of whom have begun to develop some momentum in their recovery-oriented practices. And two clients that I saw today, as I was listening to, two clients have talked about how much they appreciate sobriety and are actually developing kind of a head of steam where they have confidence. Well, that confidence isn't based on just some kind of idea. It's really based in practices for them. And there's a whole range of practices that we can do to begin to develop our resilience. And you've talked about any number of them today, cognitively as well as embodied. And I feel this work is so satisfying for me, and I believe it is for you too. It's so meaningful personally, first of all, for both you and me in recovery, and then also to be able to share with and support others as they find the same resources. People get better. I don't feel pessimistic about addiction at all, but I think it requires, I like how you put it, it requires steadiness, really steady practice, and particularly developing those capacities when we're doing relatively well, because we will face dread, tonight's topic. We will face anxieties and stressors, and it's like that's where the rubber meets the road in that practice. I've these two clients I'm thinking of, just they're from this afternoon. They've both faced, like you, they faced distressful situations, and what I was struck by in both instances, this isn't always the case, and including for me, sometimes stress will evoke cravings for alcohol or for other drugs, depending on or whatever the addiction happens to be. I was struck in both these cases that it didn't even evoke cravings because they had resource. There was like a reserve tank or a buffer, so that under distress they didn't automatically they didn't relapse. They didn't even move into cravings, and they're fully transparent with me. I mean, there's no reason to lie to me about it. We've talked about a lot of things. So I'm really struck by what this can do to really create a very meaningful buffer that you get to where you can count on this with some confidence. I love this work that we do. I want to recommend people follow up and contact you if they're interested to find out more about what you do, and they can contact you through me here at Vitality Project.
I'll put my website in the comments below, and I also have a YouTube channel now where I've been placing short videos on techniques for calming the nervous system that they're free.
Wonderful.
You can just go there, and I'll put that link in too.
Yeah, can you do that? Do you have a moment to do that right now before we wind down?
I don't know how to do it. Yeah, I'll when we close down, I'll go to the Vitality Project Facebook page.
Oh, perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
I don't know how to do that in this mode.
Okay, okay. And we'll figure out how to do that here maybe too. That's wonderful. So if people know that they can go to our Facebook page for your Vitality Project and that you'll put your information, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. It's wonderful. As always, thank you very much, dear Angela. I wish you a good weekend. I wish everybody a good weekend, and I hope that you'll be encouraged by Angela's what she shared tonight to begin to practice and explore these resources for yourselves. We don't have to be dictated by stress, even by dread. That there are skillful means to navigate this, and we're all in this together. Okay, so thank you, Angela. I wish you a good weekend. Okay, blessings to you and to all that were here tonight. Thank you all. We hope to see you all again next week, including hopefully next Friday here with Angela. Take care and good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.